Ready? Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held January 5th, 2020. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source on January 20th, 2022. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the Business Board Office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, the Brilliant Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Ganella, can we please have roll call?
Biner. Here. David. Drogan. Here. Haberther. Here. Jankowitz. Ladati. Here. Panici.
Here.
Tiers.
Here.
Zimmerman. Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. We'll now have the receiving of the minutes. Can we please have a motion to accept the minutes from March 14th and March 24th, 2002? Can we have a second, please? Second. Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. All those in favor of receiving the minutes from March 14th and 24th of 2022, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, motions carry. Reading and acceptance of monthly correspondence. Mr. Ganella, do we have any correspondence this evening?
Yes, we have two items. We have a thank you note from Roseanne Barilla and her students to Mr. Arlington and myself and to the board on behalf of the alternative program, expressing appreciation for the use of the board conference room these past 2 years as they migrated into their new home in the Burley Annex. And as well as we have a letter from Ken Weinheimer, the Executive County's business official, to Mr. Arlington regarding our Chapter 48 adjustment challenge, which we were successful, and the department restored the $44,331 to our adjusted cap.
Okay, great, thank you. Can we please have a motion to accept the monthly correspondence?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. Ladati. All those in favor of accepting the public correspondence, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motions carry. Now up, superintendent's reports and presentations, Mr. Arlington.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As part of my own scholarship, I've recently been reading and thinking more about teacher visions and the ways they either coalesce with or bump up against visions of teaching. That is, how do teachers own unique stances on teaching, their teacher visions, like why they came to the classroom in the first place, their views on instruction, their desired relationships with students? How do these things coexist within larger visions for teaching, like that are outside of their control? So in other words, the visions others have for their teaching. So superintendents, boards of ed, parents, and students for what schools should be like for kids. The educators you'll learn about tonight have achieved synergy between their own teaching visions and the visions for teaching that are thrust upon them by others. You'll learn more about the ways their beliefs align to their practices, and you'll learn more about the strong and lasting impact they've had, and we know they'll continue to have, on the children and young people of Kenilworth. So I'm pleased for you to learn more about these fine educators, who include
Thank you, Mr. Arlington. Good evening, everyone. I am pleased to present Ms. Christine Parenti as Harding School Teacher of the Year. Ms. has been a kindergarten and pre-K teacher for the past 13 years at Harding School. She is also a teacher in our after-school program. In her role, she has done an exemplary job, not only in teaching her students the academic sense, but also as a caring and effective supporting person for her students and their families. She takes the time to get to know the families of her students well, and in turn, helps her relate and personalize her instruction and support to meet the needs of her students. Mrs. Parenti is a team player, and therefore works well with her colleagues. She is both respected and liked, and her opinions and input matter. Over the last few years, she has worked with students with various needs. From special education students to ELL students, she has done a stellar job meeting the students where they are and helping them reach their potential. Due to her diverse classroom experiences, she has become a valuable resource to staff, families, and students who often seek her advice on all types of educational concerns. Mrs. Parenti also has an excellent rapport with parents of her students. It is apparent at every interaction that she cares deeply for her students. Parents have often expressed how confident and comfortable they are leaving their children with Mrs. Parenti. She has a knack for making all families and students feel truly welcome. Mrs. Parenti's students grow each year and secure impressive academic gains. They leave her classroom with the love of learning and, most importantly, the tools that they need to succeed in first grade. Teacher of the Year is an honor that Mrs. Parenti is most worthy of. Mrs. Parenti, congratulations for Harding School Teacher of the Year. Please come on up.
Maybe a group one.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Jamie Riff, Kenilworth School's technology facilitator and coach. In her short time here at Harding, she has really made a big impact on both our students and staff. Ms. Riff offers teachers and staff hands-on coaching and professional development for all their technology needs. These past 2 years, the need has never been greater for the use of technology in our school. Ms. Rifkowitz's approach to teaching staff new technology initiatives is welcomed by all. She is highly valued and respected by her peers. Mrs. Rifkowitz has quickly become a leader amongst the faculty when it comes to implementing building-level ideas surrounding all things technology. Mrs. Rifkowitz's hands-on approach gets her into the classrooms often. Here, she models technology lessons for our staff, directly working with our students. Mrs. Rifkowitz is constantly looking for ways to improve the way our teachers are using technology in the classroom. Students enjoy her lessons and learn firsthand from her student-centered approach. She is always willing to try something new, anything that she feels that would benefit the students, making their learning more enjoyable and meaningful. Mrs. Rifkowitz also facilitates outreach programs to our parents. Through night Zoom lessons and newsletters, Mrs. Rifkowitz ensures parents are in the know about technology use here at Harding School. Parents sing her praises, as she often offers the most knowledgeable information that makes her, and also makes herself accessible for all, answering all of our parents' technology questions. In summary, Mrs. Rifkowitz is a true asset to our students, faculty, families, and I am fortunate to have her on staff. Ms. Rifkowitz, please come on up and get honored.
Good evening, everybody. Jeremy Davies, principal of David Brearley Middle High School, and I have the pleasure of introducing 3 staff members. One teacher of excellence from David Brearley Middle School, one from the high school, and our educational services professional as well. First, I would like to recognize Miss Jill Minerick. Miss Minerick is celebrating her 8th year at David Brearley. She joined us in 2014. And Ms. Minerick is the embodiment of what it means to be a dedicated teacher, not only to her craft, but to the students and the community as well. She challenges her students and expects so much out of them in the classroom, and it is clear the students appreciate her for this. You can always count on there being a crowd by her classroom before school, in between classes, and during lunch, which is a testament to how much she makes her students feel comfortable and welcome. This year, we are having Ms. Minerick teach 6 classes, but it's like she teaches 8, because there are always students in her room. No matter what period it is, they're always going to her, whether it's for an English lesson, help on an essay, or just to share their feelings with how they're doing during that day. She has a great rapport with her students. In fact, they keep coming back to seek her advice and guidance even after they no longer have her as a teacher. She willingly gives up her own time to make sure her students, both past and present, have someone to talk to if needed. On top of her relationships with students, this Brearley High School English teacher shows how much she cares about the school as a whole and the community. She's one of the advisors for the Bears That Care. She has put in countless hours arranging donations for the community, for those in need, and she gives up a tremendous amount of work of her personal time to do so. One of the students who nominated Mrs. Minerick stated, "Mrs. Minerick is a kind, understanding, and thorough teacher. She is loved by many for her care toward each student. She has the perfect balance between educating her students while still having fun. Although English is not typically my favorite subject, with Mrs. Minerick as my teacher, it is." Another student says of Mrs. Minerick, "She deserves this recognition because she is simply the best at what she does. Her inspiration extends further than inside of the classroom." And Mrs. Minerick's colleagues would agree, because she has been the lead teacher for several years of the English department, and she leads that department with great ease. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. Jill Minerick, the David Brearley High School Teacher of the Year. If you were here at David Brearley 2 weeks ago at our March Madness Middle School basketball event, you would have seen the whirling dervish that is Mrs. Lorraine Shaw. Organizing, getting the crowd excited, bleeding, probably literally, Brearley blue and gold. And if you were there, you would also scratch your head simultaneously to learn that this same teacher has kept that consistent level of energy and passion at David Brearley since 1990. That's right, for 32 years, Miss Lorraine Shaw has brought her A game, not just to March Madness school spirit events, but most importantly to classroom instruction. This year alone, Miss Shaw is a teacher of 8th grade, a teacher of 10th grade, a teacher of 12th grade. And I had the bashful pleasure of calling her up in late August to say, "Hey, Miss Shaw, can you teach a course on SEL? I know you've never done this before, but you'd be great at it." And of course, Lorraine said yes, because per Mr. Arlington's inspiration, Lorraine says yes to kids, and Lorraine says yes to Brearley all the time. Representing the David Brearley Middle School this year, she is super witty. Her one-liners have everyone laughing. She's a true special education teacher, showing the deepest empathy, immeasurable patience, and a true understanding of all of her students. She instills in her kids intellectual curiosity, a desire to learn, and stresses the importance of lifelong learning. She is always available to students. Much like Ms. Minerick, she is always making herself available to work with her kids, making them feel welcome and respected. She always goes the extra mile for all of her students, for her colleagues, for her friends and family. This teacher demonstrates professional behavior, an integrated view of life, personal responsibility, integrity, leadership, as well as clear and critical thinking and civic engagement through her work with peer leadership for over 20 years. She's been on numerous hiring committees. She is the lifeblood of David Brearley Middle School. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. Lorraine Shaw. And finally, Mr. Lugo was not able to be here with us tonight, but I wanted to recognize Mr. Lugo as the David Brearley Middle High School Educational Services Professional of the Year. In the words of some of his students, he always knows what to say, he never discourages, and he always keeps up a great mood throughout any session. He is someone who I and many other students can trust 100%. Another student says of their guidance counselor, he is kind, he is sympathetic, he is sincere. He goes above and beyond to make me feel happy and confident to be a better student. I can't say enough about Mr. Lugo. Mr. Lugo has been with us since 2014 as well, 8 years, and he always has a line of students waiting for him outside of his office as a high school counselor. He listens without judgment, he advises with positivity, and he guides with care and concern as if each student here at David Brearley is his own child. He can dole out college advice, relationship advice, academic advice, you name it, Mr. Lugo can help. So congratulations to Mr. Lugo, the David Brearley Middle High School Educational Services Professional of the Year. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so we can think of no better group to break in our new sort of upscale backdrop, thanks to Mr. Ganella's assistance. So maybe we can do like a Harding picture, a Brearley picture, and then a group picture. So don't be shy. Come on up. Yeah.
Selfie backdrop. Let's sit here. There's seats out there. Kids love the parents on that. Selfie backdrop.
Got a bunch of family shots to make sure everyone gets their turn.
There's a dinner.
Yeah.
Theirs is usually the last Thursday. Really? Like every month, yeah. There's a dinner and a breakfast. I don't know if they're doing it this year. And the top 100 dinner, which is at Westwood. Angelica, she did a good job.
All right. Congratulations. Congratulations and well-deserved. We hope all of tonight's recipients and their families and guests of honor will indulge in some light refreshments we have for you outside in celebration of your accomplishments. Thank you, guys. I'm thrilled to switch gears and kick off tonight's overview of our referendum work by setting some context. When I came to this district 3 years ago, many people only wanted stability in their district school leader. That was understandable after years of some turnover in leadership, but I knew Kenilworth deserved more. I started talking about a different, more progressive vision for our schools. I believe that more innovation and data-driven instruction elevate our work. I set and continue to set high expectations for myself, the leadership team, and our staff. 3 years later, clear goals and real benchmarks have taken Kenilworth from stable to striving. I'm excited to share a few examples. The introduction of a research-based literacy program recently drove the highest K-2 reading achievement levels in years. We're at the forefront of interventions and social-emotional learning programs. Our work in these areas made us well-equipped to handle the challenges of the pandemic. We accelerated our support for college-bound students and expanded resources for their parents. Our focus on future-ready learning sparked the creation of a makerspace at Harding and new electives at Brearley, such as social justice and crime and law. I'm grateful to our staff and community for embracing our work to help students succeed in new, innovative, progressive, and future-ready ways. While we have gone a long way with our current resources and have made great strides, to continue achieving our ambitions for our students, we're taking the leap. We're exploring how our facilities can match the culture of innovation and academic growth that is now alive at Kenilworth. These include tending to facilities beyond maintenance, better meeting the needs of middle schoolers, and identifying critical projects that will help us grow. We want to enhance instruction at key points in a child's education. Our goal is to expand access to preschool and strengthen middle school as the bridge between elementary and high school. We need to upgrade our facilities where students participate in athletics and the arts. Our community also would benefit from these changes. Some people who live in Kenilworth tend to stay in Kenilworth. The improvements we're considering would reward their loyalty and make the community a highly desirable place for new residents who thoughtfully choose Kenilworth as a place to raise their families and send their children to school. Tonight, you'll hear our architects review the proposed projects for Kenilworth schools. Tonight, we begin the conversation, but I ask you to keep in mind there'll be much more information to share over the next coming months. This is an exciting time for our district as we envision a new Kenilworth, where innovation and advancement are expectations instead of aspirations. To share more about the scope of projects, I'm pleased to introduce our architectural team from SSP Architects, Scott Mahalik, Tammy Stuchko, and Roxanne Santana. They'll present next. Thank you.
It should be open on the bottom tray. Okay. Thank you all for having us as part of your team. We'll review today, as Kyle said, what the plan is for the referendum. So this is Brearley. What you're seeing in yellow is the proposed new construction. And what you're seeing in pink are proposed alterations, renovations. So the ultimate goal here is to bring your sixth grade over from Harding to Brearley and create in middle school separate from the high school, separate entrance, and you'll see those elevations and renderings later on. But that yellow up at the top of the screen is an addition. The first floor would be a high-tech science wing for the high school. The entrance on the right would be for the middle school. Second floor would be the middle school on the addition, as well as your existing second floor. So this shows the first and second floor plans of the addition, 4 science labs in a science classroom with the ability to do the new best and brightest of science. The main stair here on the right would be where the middle school enters, so completely separate from your high school entrance. Middle schoolers would go upstairs to the addition, which has music, art, a special ed classroom, office, nurse, for middle school students separate of your high school. This shows the remaining, this is your existing second floor. We would do some renovations in here to create four more middle school classrooms, breaking up some of the larger spaces that are currently used for high school. The auxiliary gym would be used for middle school gym as well as cafeteria. It would be split and scheduled accordingly. The layout you're seeing here shows cafeteria seating for 288 students. The main gym would remain for high school use. Scott, do you want to take the...
The one thing, I'm actually just going to go back one real quick. The other component on here, down in the bottom, you'll see a new lobby, and that is at the rear of the building. That's kind of the corner of the parking lot that you see up there. And this would really serve to, number one, connect the back wing that currently comes down past the office so that you can get into both the gym and the auxiliary gym, which would be the middle school multipurpose room, all being inside, as well as to create an entrance off of the parking lot, which is where, when you have large events, things such as this evening, folks parking in the back can come in directly into that lobby and go either to either of the gyms or into the main building. As Tammy had indicated, we would be creating a new front entrance off of the main road, just kind of over on the corner, just outside this door over here. Again, the concept would be that we would have a pull-off and a drop-off for parents to drop middle school students and get into the building at that point. Really trying to separate out the middle and the high school population, though we are taking advantage of them being in one building. Along the side, field side, what we're trying to do, and this is the view from 14th, is really to some degree mirror what you have and how the building looks currently. We're not looking to put something that doesn't look like it matches, yet also try and evoke that kind of new and more modern aesthetic. So we're looking at keeping the window patterns, keeping the window rhythms, and still bringing in some areas that you see in gray that would be a different material than straight brick, potentially a metal or something to that degree. Can you pull the rendering? The last piece here, this last entrance, which I had spoken of, which is the one off of the parking lot, this would be your new, it's really another main entrance to the building off of the parking lot. This would be your after-hours primary entrance for folks coming in for things in the auditorium, in the cafeteria, and the gymnasium. In 3 dimensions. But again, this is all being done under that concept of creating that middle school, because right now with the 6th grade split over at Harding, 7th and 8th grade somewhat intermingled here, the challenge presented and what we've looked to do is to really segregate that middle school from the high school population, so that middle school doesn't need to come downstairs for art. They don't need to come downstairs for music. They have a space upstairs used as a maker space for their own. This is, again, just the blocked out version of what this would look like coming down Monroe. You're seeing this drop-off area out in front with a small canopy coming over. There's not a lot of room to the road, so we're trying to keep things very economical and very minimal here, but still create that sense of entrance for your middle school population. So that's really the bones of what this looks like. Now, what we've done in addition to coming up with the plans and the elevations and seeing what this looks like in order to submit down to the Department of Education, we need to assign costs to all of this as well. At this point, getting numbers in from what we're seeing out there, looking to keep contingencies and escalations, because remember, for a referendum, the budget gets established now. We need to go through the bond vote, go through design, go through bidding. we're looking a little bit down the road from a timing standpoint, so we need to make sure that we have enough of a contingency in there as well. Right now, we're looking at the project of a whole coming in at a little over 31 million. In addition to what you're seeing here, there are components that we haven't mentioned that are not the straight educational. This is the meat of what we're doing, but we are also, as a superintendent, trying to take care of some of the other bigger ticket items that need to be taken care of. We have HVAC needs. The district is doing some of that right now through a different program that's being done without impacting taxes or impacting the budget, but there is more to do. So we're looking at unit ventilator replacements. That's all. We're in a room that doesn't have them, but those are all the units that are under the windows in the classrooms of both schools. We have some, other controls and pumps and related things like that that need to be taken care of. Looking at the athletic component and the exterior, we have the replacement of your grass field with a turf field and the replacement of a track. Every time I mention the track, somebody cringes, so we know that it's in need, as well as looking at the two ball fields, the baseball and the softball field. Taking those, regrading them, making sure that we're, things settle after years, making sure that we have a good playable, natural grass surface on those two fields. The other component is in the auditoriums, getting those up to speed. Your auditorium was built in the mid-'60s. It looks like it was built in the mid-'60s. It's in need at this point, so looking at addressing some of the lighting, some of the acoustics and the finishes, both here as well as at Harding. A little more work here and a little bit less at Harding. And then over at Harding School as well, we have a little bit of intervention in order to expand that pre-kindergarten population. Some minor renovations occurring over within the classroom at that school as well. I think I covered it. Did I cover the components that we have in there? So Robbie Akampora from Phoenix Advisors is going to walk you through a little bit more of the financing and the financial impacts and how that all works. So Robbie?
Thank you.
Good evening. As Scott mentioned, the project is a little bit more than $31 million. It's about $31.4 million. And there's a few things to consider when we talk about structuring the tax impact. We've planned on a 25-year repayment term. Obviously, just like a mortgage, you want to be able to extend out the repayment term over the useful life of the project. So the improvements that are being made have a useful life in excess of 25 years. So that's a reasonable term that we're considering for the repayment. The school district also has some capital reserve. They've got some funds set aside that they've been able to set aside in the amount of about $2 million that we're going to use for the first year and a half of the tax impact. We're projecting a referendum this fall, and we're projecting to sell bonds in December of this year. So if we sell bonds in December, we're going to start a tax impact in July of 2023. So that would be the first year that the school district would require debt service to be paid. But they're going to use this savings capital reserve to pay the debt service in the first year and part of the second year. The other thing is, as Scott mentioned, there's an approval process at the state to be able to get debt service aid. The state has a program where they'll pay school districts a certain amount towards the repayment of debt when certain improvements are made. And that has been included here at approximately 10%. I think that's a conservative number from Scott, but we have to wait for the state to give this okay. They basically send out letters for each project and say you're entitled to X% of debt service aid. So when we finally sell the bonds and we structure the repayment to net of the capital reserve and the debt service aid, the impact on the project itself as a standalone is $370 per average homeowner. Now, when we do these numbers, we try to be conservative. Everyone's been hearing about interest rates increasing, and interest rates have gone up in our world, especially since probably as a comparison to December to today. In December, 25-year bonds were selling for about 2.5%. We've projected the rates at 4% here. So we feel confident that they're not going to exceed 4% by December when we do these bonds. Right now, they're about, I would say around 3%, maybe the high 2s. So, it's our business to do these projections for you and to make reasonable assumptions, and I feel confident in the assumptions that we've made. We like to come back to you after we sell the bonds and say that the rate was lower than we anticipated. So I want you to keep that in mind, that we're anticipating a rate of 4%. If we sold the bonds today, it would be much lower than that. So the tax impact in and of itself for the $31.4 million is $370 per average homeowner. The district is paying off some bonds that they sold a number of years ago. That, right now, each average homeowner is paying about $180 in your taxes for those bonds. Those bonds get paid off in 2028. So once they're paid off, consider the big picture of these bonds, that you're going to pay, in addition of those, about $190. So standalone, $370 until 2028, when your other debt gets paid off. It's kind of like having two credit cards, I guess. You get one of them paid off, and you can put that towards the other one. So, we have made some reasonable assumptions here. We do this all the time, and I think it is fair to say that this is the tax impact that's going to be projected when bonds are sold in December. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Well, I have to have Tony come up first, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. Tony Solomini is here from Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. He's the district's bond counsel, and he's going to explain the process.
Thanks, Robbie. Good evening, everyone. Tony Solomini from Wilentz, Goldman, and Spitzer. Now, I'm at a severe disadvantage because Tammy and Scott get to show you guys all the cool stuff. Robbie gets to tell you what it costs, and I get stuck with going over the boring legal stuff. So I apologize beforehand. Stick with me. It'll be exciting. You'll be able to be a professional to tell all of your, spouses when you get home, now you're an expert on municipal bonds. So the first step in this process is tonight you're going to be asked to adopt a resolution. That resolution is basically the kickoff to the referendum process. In that resolution, it authorizes SSP Architect to submit those project applications to the state. That's when we'll actually find out the amount that those projects are approved for and the amount of debt service aid that you're eligible for. Also, that resolution authorizes, as a district, you have a long-range facility plan. Every 5 years, that plan needs to be updated. This resolution authorizes any amendments necessary to that 5-year long-range facility plan. It also establishes the date of the referendum, which tentatively is October 4th. Generally speaking, the referendum are in the last Tuesday in September. Because this year it coincides with a religious holiday, it was moved to October 4th. So that's the date we're talking about. So when Robbie was talking about a December bond sale, hopefully you have an approved referendum in October, and then you would proceed with a December bond sale. Some of the advantages of doing a referendum that Robbie touched upon: if you guys fund these projects either through your own capital reserve, the money that you have saved, through your budget process, through a lease, currently the state has no programs for you to get any assistance. This is the only avenue to get any facilities assistance, is to get an approved voter referendum. Additionally, when you issue bonds, you're allowed to finance the projects over the useful life of the projects. So the way that we always look at it when we talk to districts about this is, why not? These projects are going to last 25 to 30 years, so why not let the residents that are going to be here for the next 25 and 30 years pay their equal share of the improvements and let them pay their share towards the cost of the improvement? Why pay for it all up front now, and it unfairly burdens all the current homeowners? Let everyone that's going to utilize the asset actually pay their fair share. Additionally, if you take that burden off your general fund, that'll open you up to do some great things also with your educational component, because if you don't have to put the money in your facilities in your current budget, you can put more money in towards education. Throughout the rest of the process, once Scott and Tammy and their team submit those project applications, we'll get those approvals. Our office will then draft a resolution that has the bond question in it that ultimately goes to the voters. That needs to be done at least 19 days in advance of that election date. And then the voters vote, obviously, and then we assist with, hopefully, the successful bond sale, et cetera, issuing the debt. that's kind of the process in a nutshell. Now you're all experts in municipal bonding, and I'm sure that all the professionals are here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions before we open it up to the public for facilities referendum comments only?
I just, you just said there was, if I didn't misunderstand you, that the entrance would be over here, it would be a drop-off type situation on this side, and it's really like a two-lane street, so I guess you've accounted for that somehow?
Maybe crouch down in front of the computer again. Actually, the clicker's up here, I apologize. Go back, we did have a site plan put together that we can pull up. Oop, too far. Yeah, directly off of Monroe. For wireless. Directly off of Monroe, you'll see a little road come in and then an area for a drop-off of about 4 or 5 cars with a pullback out onto Monroe. We envision that being a one-way loop so that as people come out onto Monroe, they can only turn right. We wouldn't want people coming out and trying to turn left onto Monroe to get back down to 14th. So it would just be a one-way drop-off to allow parents to drop their students off. The students would get out on the correct side on the sidewalk, and parents would proceed out. We don't have any parking up there. It's not a high-traffic component.
I'm just wondering about the backup on Monroe, because that doesn't look like a lot if the whole school's come in and at the same time. I'm just wanted to know if that was checked pretty good.
Sure, and that's something that we can look at as well, whether that needs to be extended a little further along Monroe to give a little bit more room on there to try and ease any backup concerns on Monroe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
The question I have probably leans more towards Kyle answering.
Sure.
Looking at the second floor addition and taking one of the science rooms and turning it into 2 additional classrooms instead, is that going to cause us any problems with science class sizes for our middle school students by eliminating a science room?
No, we actually think it may help a bit, because right now they're sharing those spaces with the high school, right? So the high school labs will now be downstairs, but upstairs you'll still have 2 labs solely dedicated to middle school, along with some like non-lab science classrooms. So we've done a lot of work like playing with the numbers, and we think the kids will fit adequately there without any concern for like big class size
Even with
sizes.
the 6th grade coming over
Yeah.
3 years, that 2 classrooms will be sufficient to have
We do, yeah.
science classes that aren't over
Yeah.
large.
And, sure, yeah. And also, 6th grade labs are not overly complicated, right? Where they need, right, they're doing them now in regular classrooms, so, yeah, that's a consideration too. Yeah, good question.
Anybody else, any questions? Okay, we're now going to open up the meeting to the public for school facilities referendum items only.
Make a motion to reopen the public.
Okay. Second, okay, motion made by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. Haberther. The meeting is open to the public for comment only on school facilities referendum topics. The Board of Education sets the limits for the public to speak at the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the board for extended time pursuant to Kenilworth Board of Education bylaw 0167. Motion was made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. Ladati. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carried. If anybody has a comment, please step up to the mic, state your name, address, and your comment.
Lewis, 336 Coolidge Drive. Question for you, of the $30 million that is budgeted for this, or projected for this, how much is dedicated towards the turf field?
The field and track component and the 2 softball and baseball field, who are a little over $5 million for those 2, for the site work and the field work component.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because AstroTurf fields are only guaranteed for 8 years. So over a 25-year bond, you're going to have to replace those fields, that turf, 2 more times. You're going to incur that cost again. I just moved into Kenilworth from Springfield, and Springfield is running into that problem now because the life expectancy of their field is about at its max. They spent $10 million to do that field. Their bonds are nowhere near paid off. Now they have to spend it again to redo that field again. And they still have probably about another 10 years to pay on the bonds that they issued for that. So that's really my own concern. The overall school is great. It's just the expectancy of the field, the life expectancy of the field is only 8 to 10 years maximum. Everybody will tell you that it's cheaper than grass. Over a 20-year lifespan, it's 49% more expensive than having natural grass. So I just wanted to put that out so that everybody, could digest that, because you're going to have to replace that field 2 more times before the bond is paid off.
Thank you.
I think the only, you are correct that yes, the carpet does need to be replaced every 8, 10, 12 years. Different folks and manufacturers will say different things, but that is absolutely correct. I just want to clarify that the cost that I mentioned, the $5 million, is for not only the carpet, but that's also for all of the drainage and the underparts, the track, and the 2 fields. So I just want to make sure everyone understands it would not be that level of a recommitment, 10 to 12 years down the line. There is a carpet replacement that would need to happen, but it's not that full volume.
It would be twice before the bond is paid off.
Potential, and that's why I said some manufacturers say 12 years, that gets you to 24.
They guarantee it for 8 years.
It varies, so. But I just wanted to make sure that the board understands it's not a $5 million commitment every however long. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. John Zimmerman, 35 North 7th Street, Kenilworth. Just one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention. I'm sure you're aware of it. As a current council member, we are being faced with a tax appeal from Merck that is going to significantly impact the borough of Kenilworth. Significantly. It's not a joke. It's not a rumor. It started, and they're going back to last year. It doesn't start now. So I just want to keep that fresh in your memory and in your mind that this is going to impact our town. I'm not against this. I think it's a great idea, but I just want you to keep in the back of your mind that the tax appeal from Merck it's real, and it's going on as we speak. I can't get into all of the factors that play into it, but it's going to affect your taxes here in Kenilworth, everybody that lives in this town, whether you own a corporation or a residence. And also, I know you talked about the art gym cafeteria. Are there any issues with the middle school children using them now? Is there, I don't know if there are or if there aren't. I know, I'm not aware of any, so I don't know if that's one of the issues with moving the cafeteria into the gym, kind of like what St. Teresa's does. They use, both. Sometimes when they have a large crowd there. And also, I know the $31.4 million is the overall cost of what's been presented tonight. But I don't know if there's a leaner or a more streamlined type of referendum as a backup that could be thought about instead of a $31.4 million referendum. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. And as a former police officer, I know there's issues with the current drop-off in the back. And there's a lot more room to maneuver coming off of Monroe Avenue, echoing Paulette Drogan's concerns that Monroe Avenue is a tough spot in the morning. It's a very busy street with the current drop-off, which is hectic, to say the best. I don't know what can be done out front, but if it backs up onto Monroe, it's going to defeat any type of plan, because you have a major intersection here in North 14th and Monroe, which it would back up onto going that way. And so I don't know what the engineers came up with, what kind of drop-off they have planned for the front here, but I don't know if that's even feasible from my standpoint as a former police officer here in town and dealing with that. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Samantha Dunn, 30 Tulip Court. I don't have anything prepared. I just felt excited to be here. This is the first time I'm hearing everything about this plan, all the ins and outs so far. I've been in town since 2009, left and came back in 2017. This is very exciting. I have 2 young children, so when they get older, I feel strongly that middle school children often feel left out, kind of get lost in the mix, and this is very exciting. The separation of the two feels very important. I know there is issues with middle school and high school mingled together, so very happy that this is happening, or going to be happening. I'm on board of paying whatever I have to pay to get this done, taxes, it's part of life. And I have full faith that we will try to get the best deal for the taxpayers of Kenilworth. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing more, and I have some ideas that we could talk about later, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
Hello, good evening. My name is Anna Torres. I am living in 45 North 13th Street, and I am here today because my daughter has been victimized by she has been harassed and bullied in school. I am aware this is 3rd grade.
Ma'am, right now there's public comment. You can make it at another point in the meeting. Right now this public comment is only related to the referendum topics only.
Okay.
So if you can have a seat and then you can speak at the next open.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you, I'm
All right,
sorry.
thank you.
You'll have an opportunity in a few minutes. Does anyone else have any school facilities referendum comments to make at this time? No? Okay, hearing none. Motion to close the meeting? Motion to close the public comment, sorry, for the referendum topic? So moved. Right, okay. Motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. Ladati. All those in favor of closing the public comment for the referendum projects only, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carried. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We'll now move on to report.
I've got a question or two that popped up.
Sure.
Related to the referendum as a result of some of the
Okay,
public.
sure, go ahead.
Regarding the field situation, do we know what the cost would be for replacing the turf, whether it needs to be 1 time more, 2 times more, or whatever in that, what is the standard cost to replace if you're, as you said, the carpet?
I didn't bring that with me. That is the note that I just wrote down. I figured that would be a question that we could follow up and get that answer to you.
Okay, and then another thing I'd be curious to know about, so that we can look at it. I mean, obviously tonight we have to make a a general decision with this. But if we do, does that then lock us into it as is? Or can we, if we look into some of these numbers and see what the costs would be for turfing the field, which, as you said, includes the irrigation and the piping and everything that's needed for it, if that winds up being a number that the board were to decide, you know what, maybe we can do without that and keep the grass, is that something that can be changed, or are we locked in once we say tonight we're good with this referendum?
The answer is both yes and no. You know, what would be authorized tonight is the submission of the plan as we have it here. There are ways, if we're directed to submit the field project as a separate project, that can then be coupled or decoupled from the main project. The straight answer from the Department of Education will be once you submit and they approve, that's the project as a whole. Now, keep in mind, obviously, we're at a very schematic level here. Once the referendum passes, there is a lot of design work. You know, we're talking about this drop-off. There's a lot more work and input that goes into exactly how these parts and pieces get designed and go together. So there is a lot more that needs to happen from here.
But between now and the time of the public vote, that's my question.
Correct. And the Department of Ed, we have had success bringing the number down from what we have submitted. We can't bring it up at all.
Right.
So if that is under, you know, serious consideration and something that we're asked to kind of go back to the DOE, the fortunate or unfortunate part is that that is not what the DOE deems as an eligible cost, in that they don't provide debt service funding for that piece. So making a change to that would not impact the debt service number, and that's, if we try and touch that debt service number, then that's a big problem. So it is something, if we get further on and there is strong feeling that that's a piece we want to change, that's a dialogue we open with the Department of Education and find out, does that impact our timeline or doesn't it? Is that a change that they can make with us quickly or not? I can't answer for what they would say. Their by-the-book answer would be no, you have to pull it back and resubmit, and then you're looking at, you know, March or June or whatever of next year. So that's the by-the-book answer.
So also, one thing to consider with that is if Scott and his team submit separate project applications, potentially you could break it up into more than one question. You could have, you know, question one be on X, Y, and Z projects, and then question two be on, so give the voters opportunities to vote. Generally speaking, we like to keep everything in one and or two questions. Anything over that gets confusing, but if that's a desire and you guys advise Scott to submit separate applications for certain parts of the project, then it's easier to extract. And as Scott said, if it's something that's not getting aid, it is easier to extract from the approval, whereas if it's something that's getting aid, you can't really take that part out.
I just also want to bring up a point about field utilization. Unlike a lot of schools that have gone to synthetic turf, our utilization, we expect to be a lot less. We currently have, in the fall, boys and girls soccer and football. In the spring, we have nothing. Your typical high school athletic field plays football, boys and girls soccer, field hockey in the fall, and in lacrosse, and in the spring it's lacrosse. So utilization it's pretty much 7-3, you know. So I think we're going to have a lot less. So we're going to, I believe, will be more on the 10-year side of replacement as opposed to the 8, if even not more. I mean, we got a lot more years out of our track than we anticipated. Last couple of years it did fall apart. But we did get more utilization out of that as well, because it's not as utilized as much as a lot of schools use their facilities. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Just one thing, this is just not an overnight thing. The committee's been working on this for well over a year. and we went over every project pretty tightly, pretty closely with the administrators, with the architects. Some of the projects are really needed. The auditoriums are in dire need of repair, the track, et cetera. I mean, I think since my daughter's been in middle school, there've been complaints about trying to separate the middle school, so I think that's a good part of it. And we did reduce, obviously this was.
Comment on that a bit too.
Okay.
Yeah, after you.
Okay, no, the committee did, with working with Kyle and the architects, did reduce this from, I don't know, it's probably $10 million we took down from the original proposal. Kyle could get into it a little bit more, but it's not like we just said, here's everything, just throw it at, and we're gonna just go for a $50 million referendum or something like that. We did work it down meeting by meeting and asked in the administrators and the architects to go back and rethink this. And so it's nothing like we just did this overnight. So just want to tell you what the work, and thanks, Mr. Biner and Ryan Herbert have been, and Greg David, we've spent a lot of time on this project. Thank you.
Just to, I guess, to add to Mr. Ladotti's point, I think when we first came in, we were around 47 million, and we spent a year almost really chipping away at that, but made sure that what we came to you with tonight was not only fiscally responsible, but also a really compelling case for the building and facilities enhancements we have to make that are critical, but also bundled with that are things that are innovative, that are going to get us ahead and are visionary, right? To Mr. Ladotti's point, this number reflects weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months of work to get it where it is today. So I just echo that, and I thank the committee too.
Thank you. Anyone else questions? No? Okay.
Before we move on, just one pro forma piece of information, and that's the HIB and the suspension report. So HIB report is for the month of March, and there were 2 founded cases at Harding School and 1 unfounded case at Burley. The descriptions are a bit longer, but I feel they're important for you to review. And I'm going to ask the board to pay careful attention to and closely review the case that is the second there. And the first column starts with 2302. So I encourage you to review all of them, but if you can devote your energy to that case, that'd be helpful too. Thank you. I think we should take a couple minutes just to review those.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So I'm intimately familiar with all 3 cases. So if you have questions, if there's a way that I could answer those questions and simultaneously protect student identity, I'm happy to do that at this time.
Just the last one.
Yeah.
Unfounded. And there was a seat change. Is there any follow-up with that?
Yeah. So yes, the counseling, mediation, those are all ongoing follow-up. follow-up interventions.
I just want to know, because, you know, now their seats change, it doesn't, and friendships are spoiled, and I would hope there'd be follow-up.
Yes. Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, anyone else, any questions for Mr. Arlington? No? Okay, so if there is none, we'll move on to report of committees, review of resolutions, and board discussion. Up first, Finance and Facilities and Negotiations, Mr. Ladati.
Okay, thank you. As a result of tonight's presentation on the referendum, the committee will continue to work closely with the administration and our professional consultants on this very important project we are embarking on. The tentative budget was submitted to the county executive superintendent, and we're waiting for his approval to advertise the budget. The final budget will be approved, or will be voted on April 28th at the public budget hearing. At that meeting, we'll also discuss several contracts for smaller facility projects for the summer of 2022. Our staff has been working on some of the remediation on the softball field. I think I went by it tonight. It looks like it's pretty much completed, Vince. It looks good, and I think we have the softball coach here, so she could comment on whether it was done properly, and I think it's about time. As to resolution number 4, the line item transfers, we had 2 this month. One was because of natural gas costs have increased, which required a transfer of dollars, and also the pension and the annual pension costs have increased, and a transfer was necessary to cover our April payment. Also, the projects we are targeting for this summer are the replacement of the Harding School stage and renovations to convert the Brearley IMC to a technical media center. I reviewed all the financial bills, all the financials and all the bills. They are all in order. Number 4, I just spoke about the line item transfers. 6 is the resolution for the referendum. The other few are very straightforward, so. Questions? Thank you. And there's no negotiations are going on this time, so we're okay.
Okay, excellent, thank you so much. Next up, Personnel Management, Mr. Hagether.
Thank you. 8 resolutions tonight. Resolution 10 recognizes the aforementioned teachers and Educational Service Professional of the Year, Christine Parenti and Jamie Rifkowitz. Resolution number 11 also approves the recognition of Lorraine Shaw, Jill Minerick, and Jamie Lugo for Educator and Educational Services Professional of the Year. Resolution number 12 is a leave replacement for an art teacher. Resolution 13 is a school nurse assignment. Resolution 14 approves student teachers. 15 approves classroom coverage for extended leavers. Resolution 16 is the approval of co-curricular stipend positions. And Resolution 17 is the approval of substitute staff. There's also, do you want to do the policy now?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Resolution 21, so I guess there's 9, is the approval of job descriptions. So it's in accordance with policy and regulation 1400 and policy 3111. And at the recommendation of the superintendent, approves the following job descriptions for instructional coach K through 12, supervisor of special services and projects, and the technology facilitator coach K through 12.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone have questions regarding personnel for Mr. Hagether?
Well, I don't know, probably not Mr. Hager can answer this, but again, Mr. Kyle. With 16, looking at the stipends again, I note with continuing sadness, the vacancy for the art show coordinator, which has been sort of an ongoing thing for a number of years. And I just want to say it's very disappointing that in the past years, you know, before my daughter even existed, much less, you know, through the years that she went through Brearley, seeing the art shows that were here, seeing the students work on display was always a highlight of the spring season. And not having having that avenue for parents and family members and community members to be able to come in and see the kids' stuff on display is disheartening. And I understand the initial issue with the pullout related to the amount of the stipend, but again, how that happens comes about as a result of how the union determines separating the money. And yet, nothing has changed and nothing has been done to encourage this to come back. And I find it very disappointing that our students aren't able to have an outlet to display their work.
I don't disagree. Art shows are magical spaces for celebration and community building, and I share in your disappointment, and that's certainly something we could continue to work on. Yeah, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have questions or any other questions for Mr. Haberth or Kyle before he moves on to? No? Okay.
Thank you.
You're going to do curriculum instruction
Yeah.
also for Mr. Jankowitz, please?
Yep, sure.
Thank you.
There's three resolutions for curriculum instruction. Resolution 18 approves the district to operate summer school programs for summer of 2022 in accordance with P-2440 for David Brearley High School Portfolio Program, David Brearley Middle School Summer Enrichment Programs, Harding Title I and III summer programs, and special education extended school year programs. Resolution 19 is a curriculum adoption for New Jersey student learning standards. Resolution 20 is the adoption or approval of the February 2022 Hiv Report. And there is one policy review. Resolution 22 is the second reading to adopt. Second reading to adopt the following bylaws and policies and/or regulations as needed in the statute. So it's policy R2622, student assessment, and policy 5541 for anti-hazing, and both are mandatory, state mandated.
Thank you. Mr. Haberth, anyone have questions, or Mr. Arlington, one of us can answer about curriculum instruction?
I just want to say, Resolution 19, the health K through 6, I'm appalled that we're going to take first to third graders and discuss gender identity and vivid sexual body parts.
Where do you see that
Taking-
under Resolution 19?
It's under the curriculum. If you read the curriculum, this is the kind of stuff we're starting so young. These are babies. So I'm just saying, the curriculum is
So
pretty explicit.
I need to address that because that's not true. So we talked about this at curriculum committee. This is a long list of comprehensive health and phys ed requirements as mandated by the state. So some of these we already had in place, and others the state, we discussed at curriculum, right, kind of just crowbarred in this one policy and regulation. But it doesn't mean that each grade level, K-12, right, gets access to or instruction in these different areas. So I'm not sure what can you repeat which one you mentioned is starting so early?
Just as, it's not so much the curriculum, it's it's on the news all day today. They're teaching, they're going to start to teach these things when they're in kindergarten, first, second grade, and it's just, I feel it's very young.
But I feel like that's a dangerous statement if I can't get clarity on it, right? Because what are these things about which you're referring? Because I want to just present this curriculum guide, right, with facts so that everyone knows kind of what it is and what it's not, because there could be a lot of sort of rhetoric and politicking around, right? And I don't want that to be the case. I want everyone to know what's being taught and what's not being taught in the curriculum. So is there something in the guide that you saw that was of concern to you?
Yeah, that this is what's out on the news today, that this is the stuff that's going to be happening. Depending on the books you choose, I mean, I don't know if you have a decision on what books we're going to teach out of, but it's about explicit, telling the children so young about I'm a boy, I'm a girl, or maybe you're not a boy or a girl, and that's okay. And that's fine when they're a little bit older, but to start it that young is upsetting to me.
So it doesn't mean we're going to be doing that in this district?
I don't know that you're allowed to. If it's mandated,
So
isn't it mandated?
what's in the policy, broken up by grade, is what's specifically taught by health. So I think that's what Kyle's referring to, is that there's specific things going to be taught for each grade here. So that could be misconstrued and isn't really necessarily true.
Okay, so then you have the option to pick a different book than they're recommending. I mean, it
So like,
depends
for
on.
example, I'm just gonna talk about some examples, right? So this comprehensive guide has like 20 or more different required topics and standards. Look at 13, stress abstinence, also known as the AIDS Prevention Act of 1999, requires sex education programs to stress abstinence. That's something that happens at the high school level, right? It's not gonna happen at anywhere lower than a high school level, wherever it's written in the health curriculum. So I think it's really important to look at the scope and sequence that's in the curriculum guide, along with like the unit targets that you have in the packet, so that everyone has a better understanding of what is and what's not taught, right? Because it could be easy to kind of like put together some fears or some things that we think may be taught, but in fact aren't. So I encourage you to kind of review that scope and sequence, and I'm happy to answer questions at the next meeting or in between too.
Fine. And I'd like to just see the curriculum you'll be using to teach this stuff.
You have the curriculum in the packet. That's what you have in the packet.
No, I
That's
mean
the
actual
curriculum.
books that they're gonna be, the actual.
You want to see
What I looked
you
at,
want to
there
see
was
a
some
health
stuff-
textbook.
I mean, there's a package here pretty thick of the curriculum, which I tried to go through, and
Yeah.
some of the stuff I was saying, wait a minute, why are we doing this at that age? That's all.
So Paulette, would you be okay if we get, like, you kind of know what's going to be taught in each grade? Is that what you're kind of looking for?
Well,
Or-
no, especially the kindergarten, first, second, third grade, what we're submitting to them. It seems like we're getting a little more explicit than we need to.
I understand
They're babies. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not sure how else to address that question, but what I can do is think about it and get back
Thank
to
you.
you
Thank you.
with maybe a more satisfactory answer.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
The curriculums are online, right?
Yeah, the curriculum's online.
Yeah.
It was
And
in
this,
the packet, but I think what I'm hearing.
Starts in September, so obviously you've got whatever you're gonna present to the teachers and the children.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say, I think, is that you're interested in the resources that are used to teach the curriculum,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
In grades 1 to 3?
In
or
grades 1 to
kindergarten
3
to 3?
Yes.
in health. Got
Good.
it. I just wanted to
Got
be
it.
clear, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments? No? Okay. If not, we're going to move on to old business. Does anybody have any old business? No? Okay, new business? Okay, we wanted to make 2 acknowledgements. One, we wanted to acknowledge the cast and crew of Little Mermaid. It was an amazing production, sold out. Everyone had a great time. We also would like to acknowledge Mr. Ganella. Today is his 33rd year of service with the district. We've been lucky enough to have him for 33 years. He's going to get a very large present. And we'd like to take a minute to acknowledge him and say thank you for your work. I know since I've started, there's never been a question that you didn't answer. You're dedicated, available 7 days a week, and we're lucky to have you, and we hope you never retire.
Thank you.
We also would like to wish everyone a wonderful spring break. We know that everybody desperately needs some rest. Okay, so at this point, we will open up the meeting for public to comment, general comments. Is there a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Motion.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mr. Biner. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carry. Mr. Gallo, do you want to read the?
Yeah.
Carol Linda.
Hold on a second. Board of Education limits sets a limit for the public to speak at board meetings of 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education for extended time pursuant to Kenilworth Board of Education bylaw 0167.
Okay, thank you. Name and address, thank you so much.
Carol Linda Pappas, 31 North 21st Street. I grew up in Kenilworth. I lived in a lot of other places. 25 years ago, I found myself back here and decided I'd stay. So I'm very happy to be back in my hometown. So, but what I want to bring up is that several years ago, I wrote a letter to the board about the fact that I think the girls and the young women in the schools should have the opportunity to play baseball. Why? Softball is a very nice sport. It's a very well-organized sport. It goes to the Olympics. But softball will never become a professional sport. You know, so many sports, of course, usually were first professional by men, and then some woman come along, and Billie Jean King or whoever, and turn them into women's professional sports. It hasn't happened for baseball yet. Why not? So it has to start right at the beginning in public schools. And in fact, Mr. Arlington had a meeting with me and the softball coach. I really thought the softball coach was going to think this was a good idea, but she didn't. She was adamantly against it. So how did it go from there? That was Amy. She was against it. So I was surprised. But Mr. Arlington, being who he is, did not take sides. He said, let's open it up to the students, find out what the students want, right? So he put up a sign-up sheet, and several girls signed up. And not enough to make even a team, right? So now what do we do? So again, Mr. Arlington, being who he is and kind of brilliant, says, why don't we make a girls' baseball club? I said, that'll work, because if there are any girls who really want to play baseball, they need the opportunity to learn. They have to be able to pitch overhand. They have to be able to run 90 feet around bases. They have to learn what the infield fly rule is. There's a lot of things about baseball they could learn in a baseball club, right? I want to tell you about a woman named Moen Davis. So she was on Time magazine cover. Now, you know, girls, they finally allowed girls to play baseball in Little League. So Moen Davis played baseball in Little League. She was a pitcher. Her team got to the World Series, the Little League World Series. She pitched a no-hitter in that World Series for her team and got on the cover of Time magazine, right? Now, I don't want to see women playing professional baseball on men's baseball teams. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. But Moen Davis, when she got out of, Little League, went to college, and there's no baseball for her to play, right? Here she is on the cover of Time magazine. And she's in college. There's no baseball for her to play. She's a pitcher. She pitches overhand. She had to go onto the college softball team, right? And she had to be a shortstop because she pitched overhand. She wasn't an underhand pitcher. I don't know what happened to her. I tried to write her a letter. I got her address from a library and to the college that she was going to. Somehow they were able to tell me that. And I never got a response. My feeling is probably the whole thing. She went from being on the cover of Time magazine to nobody. What did that do to her mind? I can't imagine what she may have ended up going through in the past, you know.
Thank you, Mrs. Pappas, we appreciate your comment.
So, at any rate, I want, this is a concern of mine. I don't know how. One day I started thinking about it, and I said, this isn't fair. There's the LPGA, there's the WNBA. Why is there not a WMLB?
Thank you. So
And it
it's
has to
5
start-
minutes, so we appreciate your comment, and
Oh,
we'll
my time is
take
up?
it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so
But I
much, I'm
did-
sorry.
I did get my point across.
Yes, we appreciate your comment, thank you.
Okay, thank you for letting me
Thank you so
speak.
much.
This was
It's always nice to see you.
This was, this was good for me too, because I tend to not
Thank
be
you.
a public speaker. Thank you.
Just one thing, the girls softball program here in the coach has done an excellent job. My daughter played here for years, and, I mean, if she played, a daughter was good enough to play baseball. I mean, she started 3 varsity sports as a freshman, started for the softball team here. If she played baseball, she would probably never even saw the field, but this program built her confidence from when my daughter's probably the youngest kid in the school at that time as a freshman, and the softball program gave her a lot of confidence and built her character up tremendously. So I'd love for her to play baseball too. I was a diehard baseball player too, but she just couldn't do it. So, but I give a lot of credit to the girls program here.
Thank you. My door's always open if you ever want to talk, just so you know. Amy Evchek, 4 Windsor Drive, Eatontown, New Jersey. I'm up here to talk about health curriculum, though, not about softball. I just want you to know that the health curriculum that is coming out is new to all of us, and just wanted you to know that the health department and phys ed department here are 100% here for all of our students. We want to give them the best health education that we can, and we are all going to trainings. We have Ms. Kanzian is bringing in the president of NJ Shape, which is the health organization, in June for a personal training to come in and educate all of us on the new curriculum. I think our health department does a wonderful job with the curriculum. A couple of our coworkers right now are working on writing new curriculum and lesson plans to work with the curriculum, and I think that you would be pleasantly surprised with how wonderful and careful we are with educating all of the youth in this district. And I think that just try not to listen to all the scare tactics that people are putting out there about the new curriculum. Like Kyle said, there's a lot of standards, and we are going to do our best job to give our students the best education here, and we're not going to push anything on them that is inappropriate, and we are going to do everything the right way here. So they will get the best health education that you will expect from us.
And I will be happy to see it when
Yes,
you have it finished.
of
Thank
course.
you.
I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment?
Hi, good evening again. My name is Anna Torres. I live on 45 North 13th Street. I've been a resident of Kenilworth since '92. I graduated from Brarley in high school, 2011 to be exact, and I went away for a little way. I moved to Monroe, came back as of recently, and I felt that Kenilworth is a very safe town. Its reputation is remarkable, and my daughter had, just started school here as of last 2nd grade. She adjusted very well. She's been wonderful with the school system. It's been working very well with her. She's been victimized in 3rd grade. She's been bullied, harassed. I'm not sure if you guys see the full picture as to what she received from a 3rd grader. It's a depiction of 2 stick figures, one holding a gun with a bullet coming out and targeting a 2nd stick figure with an obvious target hole in the stomach with a unicorn horn. My daughter is a very rainbow-spirited girl. She is very free, open-minded. She loves rainbows. She comes to school decked out in rainbow every day. I fully support in whatever route she goes, but she simply loves unicorns and rainbows, and she's been victimized and bullied in school. She's having trauma. She's having nightmares. I just come to the school board and ask I plead that you look at this fairly and, serve justice for all parties, but especially for my daughter. I advocate and I stand for her. So I personally feel this is a concern, not just, for her, but a concern it's a public matter. I know they're third grade. I know it's a depiction drawing, but clearly she has full intention of hate towards my daughter. And at this route, in today's world, we don't know what is to be expected. I know she might be 9 years old, but that's not to turn a blind eye, that she's got all intention to hurt another child. Based on the picture, she's clearly about to snap. She has intention of a target that's depicted on my daughter. I don't know how this wouldn't be a public matter, because if this was happening to another child, and if, God forbid, that child brought a weapon of any kind to hurt a different child, I would be concerned, just as a public matter. And God forbid, we don't know who this child is. I don't know her family. I don't know her background. She clearly knows what a gun entails. And you don't know where, if that family has licensed gun or unlicensed gun. Whether that's a knife or a butter knife, I don't really care. She clearly has intention towards my daughter in a negative way. And I just ask that you look at it from my point of view, and that I ask, for justice for her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Torres, you met with Superintendent Arlington about this matter, right? Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
And he will follow up with you.
I did speak with Mr. Bumnowski, HIB coordinator Dawn. I did put in a police report. I am in talks with the lawyer to just make sure that everything works well in favor of my daughter. But I do put my trust in Mr. Arlington and the school board. I do put my trust in this town as a resident of many years. And all the years I've lived in Kenilworth and gone through this education, I've never in my life seen something like this before. And to have this happen to my daughter, I'm a first-time mom, so I'm really trying to do the right thing for her and step up to the plate where I need to do for her. And I do trust Mr. Arlington and the school board with this, so I do want to make that noted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Jasmine Medina, 453 Washington Ave, Kenilworth. So I come before you guys today because there was an incident in the school recently on March 16th. We had interclass games, so all the students were in the gym playing games, and there was an incident with a freshman girl who was really high, and they had to take her out for questioning. Then they brought me in because they accused me of distributing drugs to these girls whom I've never spoken to, who don't really know me. This is my first year in this school too, in this district. So that was already okay. And so I was told at the meeting that they had the assumption that I was selling drugs around the school. I asked them what they would like to do about it, if they would like to check my locker, if they would like to check my bag, because obviously if I'm selling the drugs, I would have the drugs with me. They told me that I would have to get sent out for a drug test because it was protocol, but they also had told me that they had no assumption of me being under the influence or doing drugs. I looked on the student handbook for the guidelines, and the protocol says that either someone who works in the school, an administrator, a teacher, anybody who works, if they have the assumption of you being under the influence, that's when you get sent out for a drug test. So I believe that I was falsely sent out because a freshman had said that I was selling drugs. So the officer that works in the school and the principal himself had told me, I have no assumption of you being under the influence or selling drugs. I asked them kindly, can you please check my bag? Because I wanted them to check me. They refused. So I kindly offered again, and then he took me up on the offer and he checked my bag. He didn't find nothing in my bag. So I was told if I didn't get the drug test within 24 hours, I would have been suspended. I came back to the school, and the story switched up. And they said that they had assumptions that I was under the influence, and like, they basically said that there was more people saying things. But they had told me a whole different situation. So my question is, like, why the student handbook, like the protocol, says something completely different than what they put me under, and where, like, moving forward, where would this issue lead to? Because drug testing me would not show if I'm selling drugs, because I could sell drugs and not be positive with a drug test, but I cannot be selling drugs and still come out positive for a drug test.
Can you repeat your name again, darling, and your address?
Jasmine Medina,
Okay,
453 Washington Ave.
okay, thank you.
And when I asked them like this question, like what knowledge they were getting from my drug test, they told me that I don't do drugs, which was never the assumption. The assumption that I was distributing drugs around the school. So, yeah. And then when I asked them about moving forward, will you check bags to figure out how the drug problem is becoming, they told me this was none of their, like, they couldn't do nothing about it to bring it up at the board meeting. So that's why I'm here.
Do you want to respond or follow up?
So I can't respond to your query without having all the details. So what I can do is connect with you or connect with Principal Davies to get more of those details, because right now I'm sort of following you, but not fully. It might be better to have this conversation one-on-one or in a small group. So I have that written down, and I can do that soon.
Yeah, fully up for that.
Why doesn't just the
Sounds good.
release matter?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you. Anybody else? Comments? Okay. Seeing none at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public. Can I have a second, please?
Second?
Okay, motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mrs. Drogan. All those in favor of closing to the meeting to the public, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carried. Mr. Ganella, are we prepared to have a roll call of resolutions?
Yes, there are 22 resolutions on the agenda this evening. Do any of those need to be voted on separately?
No.
19?
19? Okay, this is for resolutions 1 through 22 on the agenda, excluding number 19. Biner.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Zimmerman. Panici.
Yes.
Motion carry. This is for resolution number 19 on the agenda. Biner. Drogan.
Abstain?
Haberther.
Yes.
Ladati.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Zimmerman. Panici.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ganella, do we have a need to go into closed executive session?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Be resolved by the Board of Education. The Board of Education meet in private session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the topic of attorney-client privilege, which private discussion is being held pursuant to Section 7B and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters under discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as final decisions are made and voted upon.
okay, thank you. Can we please have a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion to go into closed session?
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Drogan, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. All those in favor of going to closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion carries. We are now into closed session.